'Twere in town of Stratford-on-Avon. A young actor, Shakespeare by name, were writing on pieces of quarto to win hisself fortune and fame. One night, in Anne Hathaway's cottage, as tea was stewing in pot, he said, "Anne, I'm going to write Amlet." And Anne said, "By gum, lad, that's not." He went for long walks that November when weather were drizzled and grey, just to make himself morbid and thoughtful, so he'd know just what Amlet might say. One night he saw gravediggers working as he came home through churchyard for tea, and he'd found that some ideas well worth having, so he gave him a bit of Act 3. Well, he couldn't decide how to end it. Then finally he hit on a scheme. He'd cover the castle with corpses, then started Midsummer Night's Dream. Now it was nearly time for Queen's birthday, and she summoned Lord Burleigh and said that the players must give a performance that finished with everyone dead. Now Shakespeare was still up in Stratford, but his agent, one Shylock by name, phoned him up at Anne Hathaway's cottage and told him the state of the game. Anne and Bill were all of a doodah to think they were going to present his Hamlet at Queen's birthday party. Shylock thought of his 10%. Now at lunchtime before the performance, the players went out for a beer to a pub called the Distaff and Doublet, and Raleigh and Bacon were there. Now Shakespeare were feeling quite lucky, and suggested a wager between himself and Sir Francis Bacon to be settled on pub's bowling green. But Shakespeare went out of a bowler, and he thought he beat Bacon all the same, and he said as a credit for Hamlet should go to him as finished the game. Well, Bacon went out of a bowler, but he were right cunning and sly, and he laced Shakespeare's bitter with brandy to unsteady the bard's sighting eye. Well, the result were a foregone conclusion, and soon the contestants were back, 'cause not one word of Shakespeare's came closer than one rod, perch or pole from the jack. Now that night at Hampton Court Palace there were 10,000 guests more or less, with 100 truckloads of presents, and the Queen in a new party dress. The crowd thought that Hamlet were gradely, and applauded and shouted, "Encore!" So the players just wetted the whistles and went right through it once more. Now though folk thought Hamlet were gradely, it were plain that the Queen weren't amused, for a white heat of passionate fury made her visage all tense and confused. When the play was over and done with, she summoned the author to appear, and Bacon, not batting an eyelid, said, "So please you, madam, I'm here." The Queen rose in dignified fashion and said, "This here play is a disgrace," and she bestowed upon Sir Francis a backhanded clout across the face. "Thou great gormless knave," she continued, "dost thou think thou could put on a play, showing little lads poisoning monarchs? Here, Beefeater, take him away." So Bacon was thrown into the tower, and though 'twere a bit of a shock, he were lucky not to get beheaded with a dirty great axe on a block. Well, that's really the end of this story, though the question's still argued today, as to whether it really were Shakespeare, or really were the author at play. But considering all that had happened, perhaps things turned out for the best. And Raleigh and Shakespeare agreed to keep mum, and let matters stood as they rest.